He got lost and ended up here on a Thursday,
Yeah,
second Thursday.
he's slumming.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have 6:30 according to Verizon and Kitty's little alarm clock over here. So if you will, just let's stop for a moment of silence before we begin the meeting. Amen. Commissioners, you've seen the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Fouché. Do I have a second?
Second?
I have a second from Commissioner Alexander. All those in favor of the motion to accept the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. Okay. Everybody know everybody. We've got a new face over here on the left. Would you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Brandon Freeman from the law firm Allen Stahl and Kilborn, and we are happy to be here to serve the town.
Thank you. Good having you here. Okay. Floor is open for any questions and/or comments to the commissioners. This is a time where we can answer your questions and talk to you and not cut you off with 3 minutes. So go ahead. Commissioners, please remember to turn your mics on.
I'm going to pull this back a little bit. Can y'all hear me? Is this on? Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good.
Fun. It's good.
Josh is giving you a thumbs up.
Thank you. Mary Standard, 118 Shenandoah Terrace, Montreat, North Carolina. We've been out of town for a couple of weeks, took a trip up to Canada to do some botany, and let me tell you, there's nothing better than coming back through the gates. We do live in one of the beauty spots of the world. It's a joy to be back. And it's good to see lots has happened in the last 2 weeks from what I can tell. So thank you for your service and welcome to the town of Montreat and service here. I have a couple of questions. Some may lead to other questions, but my first interest tonight is in the cell tower. And I believe the mayor had mentioned that the council was working towards having some corrective action taken on that. And so I was wondering where that stood.
Grant, Savannah, do y'all have any updates on the cell tower?
Anyone?
No, not yet. I think that now that we have new legal counsel, that might be a good step would be to speak with legal in terms of what what we can and can't do legally. I think, wasn't there a concern that we essentially didn't have a way to move forward legally in the past? Is that correct?
I know our zoning administrator had expressed some concerns about kind of the limits of our ability to police what they're doing up there now, but I agree that we should get our legal counsel involved now that we have some.
I think the thinking that was that several new contracts had been added over the years. And as those new contracts were added, the tower started to look quite a bit different. So there's more service, in the area, most likely because there are new contracts, but the tower started to look different over time. And each time that was added,
Well, the original agreement between the town, and Mary, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you were more on the council at that time than I was, but the agreement with the cell tower folks was that they could put one up there, but it had to be aesthetically pleasing to the community, and they made it look like a tree. Well, when we have storms, the tree limbs blow off and they never replace them, or it's just, the maintenance of the tower is not what it was agreed to in the beginning, and I don't know how the agreement continues if it's been sold and so forth, so.
If I've taken a little extra time here since we don't have, and I do have some
You're
other
fine,
questions.
I don't see people jumping up and saying they're
That
wanting to
basically-
nudge you out of the way, so go ahead.
Yeah, and I do have some questions about the budget, but if you cut me off if it's, but just, I was not on council when that was approved, but I was serving on planning and zoning, and distinctly remember, and I think it was probably about 2010, 2011, just to give you some reference. You can see when I went on council, so it was right before that. And historically, the town had to agree to allow a cell tower to be placed, but they did have some authority on placing restrictions on the aesthetics of it. And they were done, and the meeting was held in the walk-up building. So to give you some context there. And originally, the company had come and asked for it to be put on town property, which would have been up by, at the end of Appalachia, where the water tower is. But residents were concerned. So the way that sort of evolved was they then went to the South Carolina home, who gets the revenue, which I think is pretty decent. I mean, it's substantive enough to significantly impact budget, yes. So and during that time, there were definitely limits put on when they were building. I distinctly remember they had put up a wall, which was not aesthetically pleasing. And our then administrator, I believe it was David Curry, made them go back and put in an aesthetically pleasing wall that just didn't look like cement blocks. That was structurally. So the town at that point in time was certainly exerting, and it went out and it was beautiful, in quote unquote, and they were told to make a tree that looked like a tree, not like an upside down bottle brush, which was the time. But over time, it's gotten progressively worse. So I don't know who the contracts are with, but the town certainly did have say over the aesthetics, if that helps the town lawyer.
Mary, I know most recently in 2022, a co-location permit was issued, and that plan did not have any conditions attached to the permit. And I think part of the issue is that that permit was issued to SBA Network Services, which is an LLC, and it has been a struggle getting contact within that LLC. But everything, so the original permit was issued in 2009. There were certain conditions put on it. And then this co-location in 2022 has been the most recent thing that the town has approved.
And the
as far
town
as
did
the-
approve that.
But the co-location, that would be just adding something to the tower, right? That wouldn't be,
Yes,
that wouldn't
yeah.
supplant the original
The
permit.
original, yeah, which was the 2009. And
Wouldn't
those,
necessarily do that without looking at the document.
yeah, those conditions, let's see, it says, the exterior architectural appeal and functional plan of any proposed structure will not be so at a variance that with the exterior architectural appeal and functional plan of the structures already constructed or in the course of construction in the immediate neighborhood, or with the character of the applicable district as to cause a substantial depreciation in the property values within the neighborhoods. So that is,
Not much of a stand.
that's condition number one. Condition number two is, this is a 2009, yes. And then it goes on to say that the applicant shall complete the development strictly in accordance with the plan submitted to and approved by this board, a copy of which is filed in the town clerk's office. And that, yeah, that's,
So they did construct it in accordance with plans and improvements that we
yes,
approved.
yes.
And without reading more, the inference is they will maintain it
Right.
as originally
They
constructed.
will maintain it?
That's the
Okay,
inference,
okay,
without
so-
seeing whatever else in the document our council can look, but
Yeah, at this point in time, I think we could probably agree it's not aesthetically pleasing, or it's gone from really bad to far worse at the moment. So whatever the council can do I mean, these things over time have a way of, the history gets lost, people move, but it's certainly progressed to the state. It needs attention at this point in time. Thank you for that, and I'll leave it to the council to follow up on that. My next question, I know there's going to be a public hearing on the budget, but that's just a one-way discussion. So I'd sort of like to ask a couple of questions that may lead to more questions. During the workshop, which I thought was very well done and a lot came up, there came up a question of a $15 fee. And is that still in the budget that's being presented tonight? Okay. So my question is that a one-time fee or a monthly fee? Monthly. And my question is, what kind of fee is that? To whom is it being applied?
Sanitation fee, it goes to the sanitation fee, and Savannah, jump in if I leave something out, but it goes to the cost of picking up garbage. We're going to make a budget adjustment tonight because the tipping fees and the county landfill fees have gone up extravagantly over the last couple of years. We're trying to make each department pay for itself. Some of it will go toward paying for some of the staff on the
Yes,
garbage.
so this covers, the fee will cover Drew's salary and benefits, the convenience center improvements, which include the fence and additional security cameras, and then also the tipping fees.
And I guess just to follow, I'm not questioning the amount of money or those, but rather, well, sort of things that get mixed in here, since they're the lodges and conference center and the college all have their own sanitation services. Will they be impacted by this?
No, I don't think so. It's just those people who have garbage service, sanitation pickup.
Okay,
Those people pay for their own.
and so they won't, and is it going out on the water bill, or how is it to be paid?
Water bill.
And if you don't get a water bill, those people who have wells, how are they being addressed?
So we will have to pull, we can pull that information from Buncombe County and send them their bills separately. It's just, it would be a little bit more legwork on those folks, but they will get captured in this as well if they receive trash service.
And is this, and I'm asking some pretty things that are in the weeds, so, but I appreciate this, because just philosophically, I'm not questioning the dollar amount. It's $180. How much revenue are you expecting to generate from that?
I think it comes out to 126.
126,000
Yes.
for that. And how many mills would that be if you were to increase the taxes? I get that.
Yeah.
Pardon? 4 mills. I mean, I understand raising taxes is a hard thing to do. And I'm not questioning the amount that you have to either get rid of something else in the budget or accept that. But having it just as a fee doesn't seem to fit with what I would like to see as the transparency. It should be a tax increase. So that's what you have to come up with as council, how you're going to raise the money. That's your job. It's not my job. My job in the public is to tell you how I feel about it. And putting it on as a non-negotiable fee of $180 over a year, which will be carried on multiple years. Next year is a reval year. So, but either cutting something from the budget, but to pay taxes, to use a fee to cover personnel, seems like something that should be in our tax rates base, not in a fee-based kind of things. So,
Mary, each department has its own expenses. And so as the department expenses go up, we need to find something that's going to help that. And if, let's say tipping, all these fees go down, next year it might not be $15.
but things, one doesn't know, that's each year, I agree with that. But bottom line is, each department has to carry their own weight, you're saying. But basically, I don't know how to really factor that out and why it's just sanitation. It should be a tax increase. It should not be an across-the-board fee to which some people are not subject, is my point that I feel pretty strongly about. And I use this.
Everyone who's using our garbage service is subject, so don't say all are not subject.
Oh, no, well, the
I mean, that's
tax.
what you said.
Well, whatever, I meant the tax rate, kind of thing. And as I say, you're going to have to find some way to get those who don't have a water bill. You're going to have to do that. So that's good to hear that you're doing that part of it. But again, and I used this example last time during the budget hearing, but I liked it, so I'll use it again. This, to me, I'll pay my taxes. I don't want to pay taxes either, any higher, but that's one of the things that I get by living in a community that has zoning and ordinances, police, and sanitation. So I pay them willingly. I'll pay my taxes. I don't want to pay your taxes. That's the way it goes. And for me, having the fee involved is, in my example, you buy a $40,000 car, which isn't even, it's expensive, but in this day and times, $40,000 is what you get. So then you go, you negotiate your deal, and you go to sign the documents, and they say, oh, we're going to charge you $400 for the floor mats. It's enough to break the deal. And I sort of feel that this is a tipping point for the way you should go. I mean, so next year, do we get a police fee in addition to a sanitation fee? Because the police aren't carrying their weight, or we need to add. Anyway, I think I've made my point, but I am against having, not the money, but putting it as a fee, which is $125,000, which is basically 5% of the budget, more or less. It's too much.
Can I just comment? I appreciate your thinking and you're expressing that as well. I think another simile or comparison would be you pay for your water, and now we're paying for sanitation as residents. Many, where I came from, we paid, it was not part of our taxes, we had garbage pickup fees. Essentially, as we watch that department in particular, those expenses for that department have been going up. You look at the old budgets and you'll see that we've got to recover some way, and it's essentially like you pay your water bill and now you're paying your trash bill.
Can we opt out?
Pardon?
Can we opt out of sanitation services? Like we can opt out and have a well instead of water? If you're in the right, if I can opt out, I'm good with you.
Okay, who's next? Floor's open. No one? No one wants to speak? Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn until 7 o'clock when our regular meeting starts.
So moved.
Have a motion from Commissioner Widmer. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second from Mayor Pro Tem Blake. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carried. We stand adjourned until 7 o'clock. stand, please, and let's face the flag
I'll CC her.
and say together the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand in a moment of silence before we start. Amen. Commissioners, you've all received and hopefully read over the agenda. I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Fouché. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second from Commissioner Alexander. Any discussion and/or questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. I have no real communication tonight other than to piggyback on what Mary said, that it's nice to come through that gate and be in Montreat. It's such a peaceful and relaxing place. We have our moments, but it's quite a place, and I think we're very blessed to live in one of the best places in the world. Okay, consent agenda. You want to cover that, Savannah, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir. So on the consent agenda, we have just minutes adoption. We have the May 9th Public Forum meeting minutes, the May 9th Town Council meeting minutes, May 10th special meeting minutes, that's the budget workshop, and the May 24th special meeting budget workshop. Oh, who's on there? Okay, that's pending. So that is your consent agenda. I don't have too much in terms of communications tonight. This was in the Montreat minute, but I wanted to just mention it at the meeting really quickly. That the town would like to thank the Community Foundation of Western North Carolina for providing the Pigeon River Grant of just over $34,000, and that's for a Flat Creek Crossing accessible trail. The Land Care Committee has done so much work to pursue these grants. They're doing a great job, and so we just appreciate the Community Foundation, their support so much. That's all I have.
Thank you, Savannah. Commissioners, you've received in your packets the administration report, planning and zoning, police, public works and water, sanitation, streets, finance, and building permit information. Any questions and or comments on any of those reports?
I've got just a couple questions on things. And Savannah, you may not know all the answers to this, but I couldn't help but notice the huge difference in some of the numbers year to year in the police report. Do you have any idea why some of those were up and down? For example, officer-initiated calls in '23 were 725, and this year they were under 500.
It's like nobody was working last month.
Yeah, I
Well,
think part of it is
No, we
because,
always have 24/7 coverage.
yeah. I do think part of it is because we are short-staffed and some of our patrol shifts are being supplemented by Black Mountain right now. Those calls would not necessarily be reflected in those numbers because they're not our officers that are responding to those
Okay.
things.
All right,
So I think that probably accounts for quite a bit of that.
gotcha. All right, great. And I just wanted to give kudos to the staff. When you look at the financials, and you see with 1 month left, we have a $268,000 net income. I know that'll change before the end of the year, but obviously staff is very considerate on their spending, and they should be complimented on that.
Any other comments or questions on any of those reports? Okay, we'll move on. Item 7 on the agenda is public comment. Floor is open for any public comment or questions. Not going to answer them, but you can ask them.
Since I'm here, and I'll be up again. Mary Standard, 118 Shenandoah Terrace. I want to compliment the staff and the council. Recently, after coming home, I found out that there was to be a public hearing. There was a gun range to be built next to some farm property that we own in South Carolina. That was on a Sunday night, and the hearing was to be on a Tuesday night. I never received that postcard, ever, and was just thankful my brother happened to receive his. I made a quick trip down to Anderson County Courthouse for the public hearing to not have the gun range go in next door. So I really want to commend this board and the staff for making sure that our Board of Adjustment sends out certified letters asking that to make sure that the landowners adjacent to properties being affected by the variance request are honored. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mary. Any other public comments? Okay.
Tell us what happened.
He asked the question.
There was a pregnant pause when the things, many neighbors who live around there spoke against it. And it was a 30-day big, okay. And so the chairman asked the 5-member board, do I have a motion for approval or denial of the gun range? The applicant was from Georgia, not South Carolina. There was silence, and more silence, and more silence. Finally, the one woman on the board, who had already made a motion for denial for another incident, said, I will make the motion to deny. Okay. Then the chairman asked, is there a second to the motion to deny? Silence. More silence, and more silence. So we're all thinking, is this going to be approved because there's no second to the motion to deny? So finally, one of the gentlemen said, I'll second the motion. The chair then asked for a vote. The hands went up slowly and hesitantly. So the long answer was, it was denied unanimously, but it was touch and go.
Thank you. No more old business. Now under new business, budget hearing. Need a motion to go into public hearing.
Move that we enter into a public hearing to review the fiscal year 24-25 budget.
Have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Blake to move into public hearing of the 24-25 budget year. Second? Second. Have a second from Commissioner Fouché. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes carry. Savannah?
So I will just hit some of the highlights, and then I guess we will go into public comment. So the proposed fiscal year 24-25 general fund budget totals $2,232,905. That represents a 9.96% increase from the current year. The ad valorem tax rate in the proposed budget remains at 43 cents per $100 valuation. The 24-25, the proposed budget does include a fund balance appropriation of $150,000, and that is to complete the Texas Road Pedestrian Bridge project. Some highlights of general fund expenditures include allocating funding for the provision of 75% of family health care costs for staff, allocating funding for the purchase of convenience center upgrades. I mentioned the Texas Road Bridge project, and this will also finish out the replacement of the water meters in town, which is a big project that we'll be able to wrap up this fiscal year. we will be doing a 3% cost of living increase for staff and up to 3% merit raise, and that will be dependent upon performance reviews. And briefly on the water fund, operating revenues operating revenues for the water fund are budgeted at $423,000. Really, the major change in the water fund to note is that the access fee will increase from $14.55 to $15.55. And the water fund will reimburse the general fund for shared expenses, as it does each year.
Okay, commissioners, any questions of Savannah?
No, I'd just like to make one point to
Sure.
to clarify, not to clarify, but to explain. There is a $150,000 fund balance allocation, but most of that, almost all of that fund balance is actually money that was appropriated in this fiscal year. It's not being spent. So it automatically goes over into fund balance next year. We're in effect, we're not taking from money that's been saved in the past. We're taking from money we were going to spend, almost all of it from just last year. We just didn't get around to spending it. So it's going in as appropriated fund balance next year, but it's the same $150,000 that we took in this year.
Yes, thank you for making that point. Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
I have a question about the $15. I think that's going to hit people really hard. And what I'd like to know, if I get asked, is this something that's going to stay, or is it next year we see that we've saved some money, we have some of that $108,000 left over, that we could reduce that fee? Or do we foresee this being permanent?
I think with this being the first year of a sanitation fee, it would definitely be something, and that you are referring to the sanitation fee, right? The
Yes.
15, okay. I definitely think it would be something that we would need to take a look at again next year, make sure that it's the right amount, it's doing what we need to do. And I think there is a possibility that, we could decide to go a different direction with it next year.
Have you added up what you think it will cost to upgrade the station and to pay those employees?
Yes, so the convenience center upgrades are just over $21,000.
Right.
That, the fee does cover the entirety of Andrew's salary and benefits, which we've calculated, and it will also cover the entirety of the tipping fees for the year, as far as the best we can tell.
And how close to 108,000 is that?
That's, I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's
Pretty
right there.
close.
Yes.
any other questions of Savannah before we open the floor? Okay, floor is open for public comments, public hearing.
Letta Jean Taylor, 386 Oklahoma Road. I want to thank Savannah for the hard work that it took to put this budget together. I know it was not an easy thing. But I also want to say Public Works has saved us a lot of money over the last year with the purchase of the striping machine. I think it's already paid for itself. And so in future years, we will have that on hand, and so that we won't be paying that money out. So you have some more money to spend somewhere else. And the Texas Road, all the work they did up there at the pool area saved a lot of money for this budget, so you have more money for this budget year. And I want to thank you for the staff compensation. I think it's really important to have a good staff and to keep staff and not have to train new people all the time. So thank you very much for doing that. And thank you.
Thank you, Letta Jean. Anyone else?
Mary Standard, 118 Shenandoah Terrace, and Montreat, North Carolina. And again, we discussed this with primarily the council being present during the public forum when they were able to answer questions. So I'm really just putting this on the record during the minutes for the town council meeting itself. And Regarding the $15 fee, I am not questioning the 120, is it 125,000 or 180? 126,000, which is basically 3 to 4 mills. And if that's the money that the town needs, so be it. But I am not comfortable with it being raised by a fee. I would rather see cuts made so that we don't have to put that much money into it, or that it be, quite frankly, a tax increase, which can also be rolled back next year. And next year is a revaluation year, so there is some flexibility there. Given that, I feel real strongly about it, but I've said that numerous times and won't prolong that. I will be anxious to see what y'all decide. I know you can't answer this question for me, but as you consider the budget, and I forgot to ask this question during the public hearing, is that with respect, since we're saving dollars, you know, as best we can, with the cost of the bridge, there was some talk during the budget workshop that the bridge would not have the more narrow base, but would have a larger base, which would allow for a covered bridge being put in the future. And I would invite the commission to perhaps take a look at that to see how much it would, if that is still in the budget to go to the larger base, how much more money that would require. And if we could go back to the smaller base to save perhaps a millage, $25,000, $30,000, I really have no concept. Take a serious look at that if you actually see that covered bridge being built in the next 4 to 5 years. And I know there's a constituency that would like to have the covered bridge, but that's not a real need. It needs to be safe. And the covered bridge will be, is it actually going to happen? Just like we've lost the history of the cell tower, will we lose the history of the covered bridge with time? Unless that's going to happen within your time on council, which would be, 3 to 5, 10 years, I don't know. And it will also be a maintenance nightmare if a covered bridge is built there. Anyway, so take a look at that particular item, look into your inner third eye as to whether some money can be saved by going back to the smaller base. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else?
I have one more question.
Okay.
You said
We're
120.
a long way from doing that. I was going to close the public hearing. You can still ask questions. We're not
Right.
adopting the budget yet.
All right.
Any other public input? Hearing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I move we close the public hearing.
I have a motion from Commissioner Alexander. Do I have a second? Second. Second from Commissioner Whitmer. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. Okay. Budget adoption. Now we can talk about the budget, right?
Yes, and before we get into any questions or discussions, I just want to take a moment to thank the staff, especially Rachel, the finance director. She has put in so much work to this budget, and I really couldn't have done it without her. And I just wanted, it would be a big mistake not to acknowledge all of her hard work. So thank you, Rachel. She's at the Government Finance Officers Association conference this week, but she's still been working on it up to yesterday. So thanks, Rachel. She's watching. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you,
Yes.
Rachel.
Okay. I need a motion to adopt with or without revisions the budget as presented. Then we can talk about it.
What we can talk about it before.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to?
However you
Questions
want
of
to handle it.
Savannah?
What questions do you have, Kitty?
Okay, when you said 126,000, that's calculating 700 bills, but we only have about 620 or something like that households.
We have 600
Let me see if I can find the neighbor.
Well, some 625, something like that, but we don't have 700 households.
Let me see if I can find the exact numbers.
And we don't have to know this right now. I was just figuring out 100, 8,000, not 126,000.
$625 times 15 times 12 is $112,500, if it's $625, but
Okay, I calculated 600, just a round number, but it's not 700, I know.
And I can't find exactly how
Well,
many.
it doesn't matter.
How many people it is, but that's, yeah, that's what it worked out to. Yeah.
Because we send out a lot of water bills that are not households.
Right, but the only people, if they're receiving sanitation service, even if it's not a household, and I don't know if anybody falls into that category, they still are going to receive this fee.
Well, I keep bringing this up, but the water fountain at Welch Field has a water bill, but they're not going to be getting a $15 fee, so that's one water bill. And take out,
So you can
take out the college and
all of the
the,
college, the conference center.
I mean, Tom and I did this one time. We sat
Yeah.
down with all the water bills and took all those out, and we came up with about, do you remember, Tom, was it 625?
676 is the number of connections on the North Carolina Municipal Water Risk Dashboard. 676.
But those are not all households that get,
no, that's college, MRA.
yeah.
My figure was 683, and then netted out.
And like I say, we don't have to have the exact figure. I just thought when we're planning, we need a more realistic figure than
Well,
126.
before the first sanitation fee gets sent out on bills, we'll be collecting data from Buncombe County. We'll be looking through our own water bills, pulling out the ones that don't receive. So there will be some legwork that's done on staff's end before it gets sent out.
Okay.
I found the numbers. Based on the analysis we did last April, there were 683 water meters. Of that, 631 residents.
Okay.
Okay,
And now, that doesn't include the handful of the
Wells, yeah. Yeah, so that figure that Tom just presented works out to almost 114,000. So then when we capture everybody who's not included on those bills, I think we're probably getting there.
Okay.
any other questions of Savannah, or any other observations on the budget?
The only thing that I would say is you might want to just verify those numbers, because we don't want to go into it with a higher number than what we can
Yeah,
actually.
we will. We will. Make sure that that's correct.
Commissioners, any other questions of Savannah, or any other discussions on the budget you want to have? Are you happy with it?
I've just got two points in there, minors.
Yeah.
One I pointed out to you when we met yesterday. It just seems the amount of, and I don't think it's going to ultimately affect the budget, but the amount of healthcare cost, employee healthcare costs that's allocated to the street department, it's just got to be wrong. It's got to be moved somewhere else. It's like 60% of the payroll, which is just out of whack.
Yeah.
And the only other thing is, again, looking at water revenue, I don't think there's only a very small adjustment for base fee on water. It's just a few $100s. It's got to be more than that for the $1
Okay.
Maybe it's not, but I think it's,
We'll take a look at that.
take a look at those two numbers.
Yes. Did you have that done?
Any other questions or comments? Okay. I'll accept a motion to adopt without revisions the fiscal year 24-25 budget.
Can I amend your motion?
I haven't made a motion, I'm asking for a motion.
All right.
So you make the motion and we'll see if we want to amend it.
Okay. I'd like to move to adopt the 24-25 budget upon verification of several of the numbers that have been brought up.
Fair enough. Have a motion, do I have a second to that? Have a second from Commissioner Fouché. A very quiet second. Any further discussion or questions?
I have a
Mason?
discussion on the motion. I'm glad council's here. There's statutory requirements that we adopt this budget. Can we adopt a budget with stipulations? And is that going to be complying with state statutes?
I wanted to point out one thing about your ability to adopt the budget tonight, more importantly, your ability to amend.
You got to get him one.
Maybe more importantly, your ability to amend this budget after it's adopted. If you instruct staff to look at these numbers and verify that they are correct, and it turns out they need to be adjusted, that's something that you can rely on staff to do and bring you that amendment at the next meeting. It sounds like you've got a budget that there's been a good faith effort to make sure all those numbers are correct. If you adopted it as presented tonight, and there are some technical corrections that can be made, staff can bring those to you next week. And as Mr. Blake pointed out, that will keep you in the good graces of the state of North Carolina for adopting this on time and not having to worry about bringing it back after the 15th.
But Jordan, you said that next week, our next meeting would not be until July, though.
We have a special call meeting on Tuesday, but it hasn't been noticed as a budget meeting, so,
It has not been noticed.
no.
And Commissioner Widmer, I'm sorry, I misspoke. In my mind, I was thinking at your next regularly scheduled meeting, so next week is not accurate. Still, I do believe that you should consider adopting this budget as it was presented. You do have a motion that is live. You've had a motion and a second. So the procedural step would be to have a vote on this motion, and it could be voted down and a new motion could be brought. Or there could be a second motion to amend the motion, or a lesser motion to amend this motion. It depends on how complicated you want this to get.
Could I withdraw my motion?
Technically, no.
Been seconded,
It has been seconded.
so no. All right. Let's lay this out. If we vote now and vote this motion down, and then go back and make another motion to adopt the budget as presented and get a second, then we can go and we'll have it done. And then we can make adjustments to the budget later on with amendments.
Yes, so
as
it
we
would be
go
just
through
like
the
any
year.
other budget amendment that would come,
It's like the one we're going to make tonight.
exactly, yes.
Adjust moving funds for the tipping fees. Okay.
Correct.
Is that all right? All right. Call for a vote on the motion and the second that was made by Commissioner Widmer. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay, motion fails. Now, somebody make a motion to adopt it as presented, please.
Nobody's moving.
This is that pregnant silence you talked about earlier, Mary.
All right.
Okay, are you making it? Mason? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt without revisions the fiscal year 24-25 budget.
I have a motion from Commissioner Widmer. Do I have a second, Commissioner Fouché?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to adopt without revision the 24-25 budget signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. The budget ordinance, Savannah.
Okay. So the budget ordinance, the budget ordinance is just putting into place what you just voted on, but via ordinance. And that includes the budget message as well.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 24-25 budget ordinance?
I move we approve the fiscal year 24-25 budget ordinance.
I have a motion from Commissioner Alexander. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second from Mayor Pro Tem Blake. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the budget ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Budget amendment number 1, Savannah.
Yes, so this is a budget amendment that will allow us to cover, we went over on our contract services, that includes tipping fees, I believe. So that was for dumpster services. We went over, so we were.
Dumpster services is the rentals, the hauls.
Yes, yeah. So our dumpster services for the convenience center, we were over budget. We just need to move some money to cover our overage there.
Okay. Do we have a motion on this item?
Well, I'm going to move to approve the budget amendment number 1 to cover the cost of budgeted amounts for fiscal year 23-24 for sanitation department contract services, dumpster services.
Have a motion from Commissioner Fouché. Do we have a second? Second. Have a second from Commissioner Tom Widmer. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Budget amendment carries. Loan documents for Texas Road Pedestrian Bridge Project. Savannah.
Yes, so the first thing I will say is that we originally talked about borrowing $200,000. Now that we plan to make the appropriation from fund balance, we will only need to borrow $100,000. So you do have the terms and the amortization schedule in your packet, but those will need to be updated to reflect a $100,000 loan rather than a $200,000 loan. So the terms will remain the same. It will be 36 months, 6.18 interest. And another thing that I'll mention is that we would not enter into a contract with the bank for this loan until we have a final contract in place with our engineers who will be doing the work on Texas Road Bridge. So that will be the first step that will come to you for approval, and then we'll move forward with the loan. But we just need to let the bank know that we do intend to move forward and get our terms in place so we can bring those back to you.
Okay, the motion is to direct our town manager to negotiate a loan with First Bank in accordance with the proposal for credit facilities dated June 3, 2024. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Mayor Pro Tem Blake has made a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. All those in favor
Can we
signify
have
by...
discussion?
Yeah, if you want to.
Savannah, just a couple questions. Number one, did you talk to others besides First Bank?
I did not speak to anyone besides First Bank, but I can. They do the majority of our banking, and we have a good relationship with them.
And that's important.
So that was my intention was to just move forward with them. But if you would like to see if maybe there's a better rate out there, I can certainly look into it.
Well, the other thing is that we're dropping from a $200,000 ask to a $100,000. And, that's going to be a little bit more attractive to them.
Yes.
Which should probably be reflected in the interest rate. So,
I think it likely will be.
so maybe you can negotiate that down.
Yeah.
I've got one question. Is this still going to be for 36 months or shorter?
It would be for 36 months still, but there would be no penalty for early payoff. So if we decide to be a little bit quicker on that, it's no problem.
Any other questions? I have a motion on the floor from Mayor Pro Tem Blake, second by Commissioner Dasher. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. Floor is open for public comment.
Mary Standard, 118 Shenandoah Terrace. It's a joy to be here. Thank you for being here for me. I always learn a lot when I come to these meetings. And one of the things that struck me as I've listened to you tonight is that this town is generating a lot of trash. And that the amount of trash that we're generating is of concern. With increased cost of sanitation and getting rid of it. And I said, this community, by and large, is very environmentally sensitive and concerned. And we have a Bearwise committee, and we have a Firewise committee, and we have a land care committee. Perhaps there needs to be some public education and public buy-in in that we, as responsible residents and visitors, work to reduce our own amount of trash that we're generating. That's the other side of this equation. And I mean that in all sincerity and not as a joke at all. And if I am correct, and Savannah perhaps, and I'm not suggesting that we hire someone, but I do believe that the town of Black Mountain did hire someone specifically to address the issue of reducing waste, to cut down on their so it's a legitimate thing to think about from a public information standpoint as you send out newsletters and just to get people thinking positively about reducing taxes, reducing waste, and being environmentally conscious. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else? Could go back to feeding the bears. Would that be against your?
Mary and I are tag teaming tonight. I wanted to congratulate you all because you were not one of the 100 cities in North Carolina that received or did not get their audits in on time. So there were 100, that's wonderful. And Rachel did a great job, and Savannah as well. And also congratulations to Rachel. It was in the Montreat Minute, but I think it needs to be in your minutes that she received a scholarship to further her education. I think that's $25,000, I think, was the amount. So that's really quite an accomplishment for her. And you all will benefit from her new knowledge that she gets. And I wanted to wait till after you approve the budget to get you to think about infrastructure for next year. You're going to use all of your Powell Bail money you had saved and what you're going to get next year to do Overbrook and Virginia. And it's going to cost a lot of money to do any other paving in town. So if you would begin thinking about now what you're going to put into infrastructure next year, it's going to take a lot of money. So I just want to put that bug in your ear now. Thanks.
Thanks, Letta Jane. Anyone else? Okay, public comment period is closed. Commissioners, any communication from you?
I'll just take a minor comment, and again, what we get, every year we go through the budget and we barely even mention touch over our fee and permit schedule and our rates. And I'll just say that I've asked, and hey, staff, it's unbelievable what our staff does to get this budget together with just a few people. And it's in many ways as complicated as much larger enterprises, and it's terrific. And I'm not faulting them at all, but none of us, including the town commissioners focus enough on looking at those fees and schedules. And over time, just like we had a water fees that Tom rescued us from and we got corrected last year, we've got a lot of other fees, particularly our zoning department fees, which are just, they're 1/3, 1/5 what Black Mountain's charging. And we need to make an effort as a commission to, and I don't know whether a special community board or what, but we need to get an effort to this year and maybe early this year so we can get an amendment, just like we had an amendment early last year to get new water fees, get some new development fees in here that start to get some cost back from the people that are using the services of the staff.
Good suggestion. Absolutely, you can say anything you want.
I just thought it might be wise to remind the public that as of next month, our meetings are going to be starting earlier. Our public forum will be starting at 5:30, and our regular meeting will be starting at 6.
I got it written down here.
I stole your thunder, I'm sorry.
That's all right. No thunder to it. I just want to make sure everybody gets here on time. Anyone else? Kitty?
Yes, Tim and Mary both mentioned how wonderful it is to come through the gate and how gorgeous our community is, except for those daggum signs and ribbons. I am so sick of them. Has anybody had any luck getting some down?
I actually had someone tell me they thought that there were many fewer of them.
They were what?
There were many fewer of the signs and ribbons. It seemed to me, I don't know whether they were last year in wintertime and that the leaves are covering some of them up.
Well, I was going to write the judge and ask him if he'd be coming through Montreat anytime soon so we could put him back up if he comes, but I don't think he's going to show up from Raleigh. So let's get those signs down.
Anyone else? Tom?
Yes. Can we get a couple of trash cans over by the bridge? Those picnic tables are used on a fairly regular basis, and I live pretty close there, and we walk across that bridge almost every day with the dog, and I've noticed trash. And I think what else would be helpful is if we could get some of the dog waste cans, maybe one there, and maybe down by up by the Howerton steps on that sidewalk along the dam and the lake. And some of you may have some other spots too. The ones that they have out seem to be very effective, but I still see some bags around. And okay, great, thanks.
Not the barrels. We don't invest in any
Oh, no,
of those
they'd need to
barrels.
be bear-proof. whatever
Yeah,
we
but
put
those
over there.
barrels, they pop open like a can of Pringles.
I think the guys might have a couple of extra ones like MRA has, so.
Anyone else? Dates to remember. Tree Board, Tuesday, June 25th, 9:30 a.m. at Town Hall with Zoom options. Board of Adjustment, no June regular meeting. Land Care, Wednesday, July 3rd at 9 a.m. in Town Hall with Zoom options. Town Hall is closed on the 4th in observance of 4th of July holiday. Hillside Development and Ordinance Subcommittee, July the 11th, 9 a.m. in Town Hall. Planning and Zoning Commission, Thursday, July 18 at 10:30 a.m. in Town Hall with Zoom options. Tree Board, Tuesday, July the 23rd, 9:30 a.m. in Town Hall with Zoom options. And don't forget the race, July 4th race. What time is that, 7 o'clock? It's pretty darn early. I'm there whatever time y'all post. Oh, I know, it's 7 o'clock, but I need to call Matt Ashley and make sure he's going to do that again for us. Savannah, you don't have to come for that. Yeah, I asked Kent, and Kent said, well, he'd be happy to help Matt, but Matt's in charge, so I'll have to ask Matt to ask Kent. Anything else from any of the commissioners?
Just confirming the date that I forgot, we're still on for Wednesday, Tuesday.
Tuesday, 3:30 here. Entertain a motion to adjourn. I'll entertain a motion to
I
adjourn.
move that we adjourn.
Have a motion from Commissioner Alexander to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Fouché. All those in favor of the motion to adjourn signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. We stand adjourned.
Tuesday, the 18th, at what time?